Hello, welcome to my channel, A Book Forest. My name is Kim, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag. So it's about the right time of the year to do that. I wanted to wait until the end of June so that I have all my first 6 months of the year reading done before I started the tag. I wasn't tagged by anyone because I'm pretty new to this platform, so I just took it upon myself to do it. I think it's accepted for this one particularly. So first question, best book of the year you've read so far. That was a tough one for me because I've read so many really good books. Mostly my favorites were in the Cosmere, let's face it. I've been reading a lot of Cosmere this year. But my favorite, absolute favorite, is not an entire novel. It's a novella, and it's The Emperor's Soul, which I've read in the Arcanum Unbounded. So The Emperor's Soul is it's like 100 pages, but it's so beautiful, so perfect. The characters, the story, the magic, the pacing, it's a beauty. It's so delicate, so the essence of the story is just about art and artists, and yeah, I loved it so much. So yeah, that was my favorite. I don't know if anything is gonna top it this year. I find it a perfection, and I think it's a great starting point for Brandon Sanderson. It gives you all his strengths in one little short story. So yeah, amazing. Then the best sequel so far, that was also the Cosmere. It was difficult to choose between Words of Radiance and my choice is Oathbringer. So I think most people prefer Words of Radiance, and it's really good. I just have a soft spot for this one, which I finished a short while ago. I think it's because of Dalinar. Like, there's a lot of Dalinar backstory in this one, and it just gave me all the emotions, and it gives you so much depth, layers onto his character. Amazing. And yeah, that's my favorite sequel this year. And then a new release you haven't read but want to, from in the first part of the year, basically. It's one I was supposed to read in June, but then I didn't get enough time, and I'm reading it right now, so I am gonna read it for July. And it's I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. It just released like a couple of months ago, and I'm a huge fan of Peter S. Beagle. I think his writing style is beautiful. I'm not a native English speaker, but so I'm not like the best judge for writing style, but I think Peter S. Beagle has just a beautiful prose. It's not too flowery. It's not. You just get in the world and you feel like you're inside of this world. So yeah, that's the one I really wanted to get to at the beginning of this year. So I'm quite glad I got to it finally. And then the biggest disappointment this year. Okay, I don't have that many because I usually don't go in with lots of high expectations, or if I do, they usually are met. So I'm quite lucky. Um, I try to choose books that I think I'm going to enjoy, basically. The one that I think I got into that it did not meet my expectations is the one I just read. It's called Captivated by Nora Roberts. I usually like her books. I mean, it's a romance novel. It's nothing like that I expected like a great thing from it. I think she's great. I think she's good, but it's not high literature. However, I usually expect a nice romance out of her books, or at least a nice plot. One or the other, or both together is even better, but there was none of it in that book. Like the title of the book is Captivated, and I was anything but captivated. hated. I can't even believe I didn't DNF it. It was the characters were bland. The story was extremely boring. There was no plot, essentially. The only thing that was kind of nice about this book was the setting, and even that is ordinary. So no, I did not enjoy that book. So that's my biggest disappointment, I guess. Biggest surprise this year. I would have to say The God Makers by Frank Herbert. I read that on the Kindle, as I did Captivated. And I was not expecting to enjoy it that much. I've never seen anyone who's read that book, and I didn't see a lot of reviews for it either. And most of the reviews are kind of mid, like they're positive on it, but not that much. But the thing is, I did go in not expecting Dune, so that was good. And yeah, I enjoyed it so much. I think science fiction from the 70s is kind of my jam, because everything I've read so far from that period has just been a banger for me, so I'm gonna read more. But for sure, The God Makers, I made a review of that book, so if you want to check it out, it's on the channel. Then the favorite new author. This year I haven't read that many new authors actually, so it was very, like, the choice was very slim. My only two new authors that I started reading this year are Ryan Cahill. I read one of his novellas. It's called The Fall, in the Bound and the Broken series, and the other one was Giles Christian. I read his short story. It's called Hellmouth. And out of the two, I would say I enjoyed The Fall by Ryan Cahill the most. So I'm gonna say Ryan Cahill, and I think I'm gonna keep going with that series. I'm kind of looking really forward to it. So expect that this year. Then my newest fictional crush. I would have to say I'm like one character from the Stormlight Archive, and I can't decide between two. So I would say Kaladin or Adolin. I think I'm leaning towards Kaladin because I do have a thing for like the broody, stoic kind of characters, Mr. Darcy or something like that. So yeah, I would say Kaladin. But I kind of have a soft spot for Adolin as well, even though they're both way too young for me. And my new favorite character, who is more of my, I think on my age bracket, would be Dalinar. I take him too. Yeah, Dalinar is just like, oh, I love him so much. He's very, very layered. At the beginning you're like, oh, okay, he's like the good guy and the Ned Stark, and he's just honorable. But there's so much more to a story than that. In Oathbringer, I was like, young Dalinar is a hoot. He's kind of a dumbass, but he's so fun. And then further on, it's less fun, but so compelling. So yeah, Dalinar. I can't wait to see what he does next. Then I have book that made you cry. That's a tough one. I didn't cry much this year. Not. I usually cry when I'm angry, not when I'm sad. But I would say the one that got me in the feels a little bit, I would say The Way of Kings. The Kaladin. There's one scene with Kaladin that really, really got me. I was shaken. So it's dark. So it got me close to crying. I had a little tear. Then it was the most beautiful book you bought this year. I did buy a few books, like, of course, but I didn't buy like stunning books. Like I usually have like a couple of wow books, but from the ones I bought this year, up till now. I think the nicest one looking one is this one. I haven't read it, so The Bone Season. I think it's an 10th anniversary edition. Nothing special, like it's not a, there's no special edges, but yeah, the dust jacket is quite nice. So that's the one I think is the most attractive, the one from the ones that I bought. She has beautiful books. Like I have also The Priory of the Orange Tree. It's a stunning book. Um, so that's the one I chose. And then a book that made you happy. I'm gonna have to say, I don't know if I brought it here, but it's somewhere. I'm reading it right now, so I'm finished with it, but I was reading it. So it's called The Alpine Path by Lucy Maud Montgomery. It's in my previous video on my July TBR. Lucy Maud Montgomery, any book that she writes makes me happy. Uh, it's just I go into a different zone when I'm in a different mindset when I read her books. It's very ethereal but grounded. Like it's beautiful sceneries. It's beautiful, like home. I don't know. I feel like I'm at home when I read her books. So comforting, beautiful. So uh, the Alpine Path is it's kind of the story of her career. Someone asked her to write the story of her career when she had a few books published already, and she wrote sort of an autobiography, I would say. Like it begins with her youth and when she was a child, which is her specialty. Like if you've read any of her books, you would know she writes children beautifully. Um, and she goes on to talk about like her how she tried out, like she sent manuscript when she wrote them, when she was writing her life, and also it ends a bit like during her she got married in her honeymoon and she's traveling to Scotland and she's like roaming Scotland looking for all the things that she read in poems by Tennyson and Burns and things like that. So it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. There's nothing more to say. Um, Favorite book to movie adaptation? I don't watch a lot of TV these days. It's either I read or I watch TV, and I have a toddler, a young kid, so watching TV with him in the room is very hard. Reading too, but no. So I don't watch a lot of TV. So I'm gonna have to say, like I watched a BBC series on BritBox. It's not new or anything. I think it was done in the year 2000, so quite a while ago. It's called Lorna Doone by R.D. Blackmore. That's the novel, and I read that also a few years, quite a few years ago, 20 years ago, let's say. And it's a classic. It's about people living in the moors and like before the laws were implemented in England. It's a bit of a tumultuous time, and there's this farmer who stumbles upon a beautiful young lady after finding a secret path to a valley where all the Doones live, and the Doones are like a noble family, but they're outlaws and they're not very nice, and everyone is afraid of them. But he's kind of smitten by this young lady at first sight, so he goes back. And that's the story about how they handle living next to all these outlaws and how who is this lady and why is she there? Can they be together? It's nice classic. It's a bit difficult to read because of the writing style. It's very old, I would say. Like it sounds more like 17th century than 19th century, 18th century, or but this was written in the 19th century, but it's a bit heavy in the prose, but it's worth a read. And then the adaptation was lovely. It had some actors in it that I've seen in like Game of Thrones, for example. The one who plays Littlefinger, and he's one of the Doones. And there's also yeah, like just a few actors I've seen somewhere else, but yeah, it's a lovely little adaptation, and I enjoyed it very much. So if you want, you can watch it. I recommend. And then, what book or books do you need to read before the end of the year? I don't need to read any books before the end of the year. I read whatever I want, but I have made a video saying that I want to read all the Cosmere this year before. Next question. Before there's the release of the Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. So the books I would like to read before the end of the years are the books I haven't finished yet in the Cosmere. So Tress of the Emerald Sea, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, The Sunlit Man. I'm gonna read White Sands, I think, and I'm currently reading Rhythm of War. So those are the books I would like to finish before the end of the year. And then my most anticipated release of the next, and like the second part of the year, Wind and Truth, obviously. I'm pretty sure it's the answer for a lot of people, and yeah, I can't wait. So I think I mixed up all the questions, but it's fine. So hopefully you have a great day, and let me know the answer to some of those questions, and if I've talked about a book that you're interested in reading or that you've already read, let me know in the comments. Have a nice day.